I know a lot of people in the business claim that we are never smart until we're in the business. I mean, what do you think?
It's a 50-50 one, I think. Yeah, it's 50-50. I agree with him, yeah. I mean, you never know unless you've been there, really. And you can only see it from the outside and read what you read and what you're told. Some might not even be true, but yeah, I agree with that statement. Yeah, definitely.
I think it's quite funny because I'd love to really have a look at a backstage environment and to know how those matches really were booked. I would like to know how much of the stuff we read on the internet is true. Now, a lot of the workers are always on their Twitters denying what happened and what was said, and we never get the full picture, but I found overwhelmingly that a lot of the stuff that's called about what's to happen storyline-wise and result-wise is usually dead on, and it's more the sort of TMZ gossip side that can be a little bit blurred. We never quite know what the true situation is when some of those kind of controversial extracurricular activities happen. And indeed, yeah, it's always tricky, and certainly I've strayed away from talking about lots of the stories on here. You can't rule out that somebody's going to hit you with a libel.
Yeah, that's very true. Especially with some of the crazy stories that do come out. But for the most part, I think most of the news sites where we get our reports from and information from, we only kind of report on solid stuff, I think, and because there is quite a lot of crazy stuff out there. But I'm sure most people, even in the chat room, will have their favourites and sites they visit on a regular basis. And for the most part, they all kind of, you know, intertwine with each other and cover the same stories, but you know, I don't think we're ones for reporting anything that's a bit out there and certainly open to any liable damage.
Yeah, you don't want to be reporting on stuff that you don't know the true story of, and indeed lots of those stories on the internet you can take with a pinch of salt. We don't always know the truth. Now, NXT this week wore on with Kane taking on Heath Slater. Heath winning that keg carrying competition, getting that opportunity to take on the big red monster Kane. Kane becoming NXT fodder at this stage, but then he's SmackDown fodder as well. And if they need him on Raw to job, he's always happy to do it. I'd love to know if he disagrees ever. I'm sure he does. Maybe he's even back there pitching stories. The more I'm hearing about the backstage stuff that goes on and how writers don't have anything for certain people, I just wonder how much of the pitching is going on that we don't know about. I mean, we can't blame the guys for the writers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Kane's probably happy in his position, knowing that really his best days are probably behind him, and you know he's not going to be a champion again, and that gimmick is probably as stale as it's going to get. You know, it's not something that you can really. Well, they should try change it. I think freshen him up a little bit. But I'm sure he's making enough money and he's just happy to do those jobs. But on the other side of it, I feel sorry for somebody like Goldust, who is just still absolutely incredible to watch and so good in the ring and so underrated across the board, a guy like him. But I mean, his attitude era was his limelight, and trying to pull it back and get, you know, he's kind of pushing it a little bit and a little bit rough shape wise, I'm sure, to when Goldust was in his prime. Not much, but his time is probably up too, but still great in the ring, and he definitely needs the credit. He needs some credit, Goldust, because he's amazing to watch.
Yeah, he always works a solid match, and he always does something different. It's not the Flair bump scenario where he goes over the guy's shoulders. Always with something new in a match, and indeed Dustin Rhoads certainly has had a great run with that Goldust character, and indeed it's probably curtains for them doing anything with him now, but with him on that roster, you do have to wonder why they will continue to sort of underuse him. And I suppose it's his time now to be the guy who jobs, like the Matt Hardy, like the Kane.
Yeah, I'm sure that's it. He's probably teaching some of the younger stars the ropes a little bit more, like your Sheamuses and your Drew McIntyres and stuff. just kind of like what Finlay pretty much did as well. But Finlay managed to get over surprisingly well, and didn't really do much jobbing at the same time. He constantly was coming out on top, old Finlay, which is kind of worrying, I think, for a guy like that who trained divas and showed people the ropes, because that gimmick was horrible, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It just didn't mean anything. And I suppose they were going for that old school wrestler, the traditional guy. But it didn't certainly sort of get over, I don't think. It got over when they put Hornswoggle with him. But definitely that's the audience tuning in to WWE a lot these days, more so than ever. Now we had Darren Young versus Danielson, and continuing in this match, we had a lot more BS from Michael Cole. I think he was really offended by that JR comment. He didn't like the idea of Danielson speaking back to him. Now I would love to know if these two guys walk past the curtain at the end of the night and the show is over and they look at each other and laugh and shake hands. Maybe, maybe not.
It's so hard to know in the business. I'm sure it is all a work, but it's an entertaining one, and it's kind of quick fire as well. So with both of you, don't know what to expect, and they should just keep it rolling. I think it's endless comedy gold from both.
Yeah, I think he might eventually maybe lose this sort of vibe. Maybe NXT Season 2, they might change it up. Perhaps Lawler will step into that position, and maybe the man of Sax, Byron Saxton, could indeed get his shot. I mean, he's sitting on FCW, and indeed he had that little stint on ECW. I'm sure he expected to be part of NXT. Sadly, not happening for the man of Sax.
Yeah, I think Sax would be cool. Bring Sax up to NXT would be really cool, because he can work that other side of commentary that Josh Matthews definitely can't work, and that Cole is still in his broadcasting boots from the old school, not even wrestling minded. So he's got all that background, and then you have the man of Sax, who can really deliver it down in FCW, and he some of his commentary with Dusty is just terrific, and that's one guy I'd like to see up on commentary in NXT, Dusty, but I don't think they'd let him, because he's a bit quick fire and a bit loose with some of his commentary. He tends to stray from the matches quite a bit, but in a funny way. So yeah, the man of Sax.
Indeed, Darren Young won that match very quickly, and Bryan Danielson unfortunately losing. I'm sure Michael Cole really enjoyed that, and lots of references throughout the match to his blog on the WWE Universe site, talking all about his Twitter, and I'm talking fine detail here. Cole is reading that stuff, and he's making note of it, and he even instructed his partner, Josh Matthews, to go ahead and read that WWE Universe blog from Danielson. I certainly don't spend much time doing that myself. I mean, that's a work too, right?
It has to be. Yeah, it has to be, without a doubt.
So more results from NXT, and the pros must be getting a bit pissed off at this stage. I mean, they're still being associated with these rookies on the title sequence, and also their music. I mean, music is a very exclusive thing to a guy. He wants that music to be his and his only, if possible. And indeed, certainly I think Matt Hardy now probably getting a bit annoyed with Justin getting the pop off that song that I'm so bored of by now. But then that seems to be the tack they're taking for this NXT show. Now, Barrett defeated old Tonga, and he did it the right way as well, with lots of proper wrestling maneuvers. You can't shout to Barrett, you can't wrestle, because this guy can work, and work like a troop.
Yeah, he's terrific. I think Wade Barrett's going to be a big star, and they should... I'm sure they have acknowledged that he will be too, because he's got the total package. He can work the mic. He's great in the ring. He's got the size. He's got the gimmicks sewn up. He's a keeper without a doubt. We said this earlier off air, but I think Barrett's definitely a keeper for them.